When and how is the right way to skip the chain of command when you feel like your direct superior is a part of the problem?
Big one, because this is very, very problematic. And skipping the chain of command is a last resort. It is a last resort. Why is it a last resort? Because when you skip the chain of command, you're breaking the trust I just talked about. You're breaking it. The relationship that you've been building, you're damaging it. It's not good. Sometimes it's unsalvageable, by the way. Sometimes when you skip the chain of command, you will never be able to recover from that. Now, of course, if there's something that your immediate superior is doing that's illegal or immoral or unethical, if that's the case, then it's actually your duty to go above them in the chain of command. Now, do you still first report it to them and say, hey, what you did is wrong, we're not going to do that? Yes, you should tell them first, unless it's going to, cause you to get in some horrible situation. Now, this is an interesting thing that I thought about. Let's say you and I are working together.
Sure.
And you're my boss. And let's say you're doing something that's immoral, illegal, unethical, right? And I watch you do it. And I see you leaning towards it. I'm like, oh, I think he's going to do something that's illegal right here. And I don't say anything. Mm-hmm. And then I watch you do it. And then I run up the chain of command, report you, and bust you, right? Mm-hmm. You got to be careful with that. And I think when you work for someone, or when someone works for you, you need to lay it right out of the gate. Like, hey, this is where I stand. Like, I'm not going to cover for you if you do some stupid, illegal things. Yeah. You don't wait for them to do it and then drop the hammer on them. Maybe I'm being overly fair, and maybe we should be all out to get people that are, doing something that they shouldn't be doing.
Part of the problem.
Yeah, I actually... I believe, that's my belief, is when I meet you and I say, hey, Echo, what's going on? And you make a little crack, you make a little joke, you say, well, it's not like the customers can really see that money. Let's say you're going to skim money from somebody, right?
Yeah, that.
And you go, and you make a little joke like that, and what you're doing is testing the waters with me, right? You're testing my ethical morals. So I'd be like, yeah, there's no way they would ever know. And besides, we pretty much work for it anyways, right? You're going to see if you're going to get that reaction with it. So you go, we just, sometimes we got to charge a little extra on that install, right? Maybe we're some kind of installers at a house, and you go, yeah, I usually throw a little upcharge on here. They never know if that's type of wall, whatever, right?
Yeah.
You throw that test at me. It's my duty. If I'm the type of person that's going to report you for skimming money from the customers, then I should tell you, like, hey, man, that's not cool. No.
Yeah.
No, those customers, here's my view, is those customers that we're out there trying to do this install for, they had to work hard for that money, and I don't want to be taking it from them. Mm. Now you kind of know.
Yeah.
You better not be doing that in front of me.
Yeah.
As opposed to me smiling and going along with your joke, and then 3 months later, I report, I turn over a report to the boss man.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's very ethical either.
Yeah, it's kind of like
to mislead you. It's a little bit of a backstab.
Yeah.
Now, are there cases, of course, where somebody's doing something that's just outrageously unethical and you didn't know about it or something? Yeah. You pretty much know, though. You can tell when people are doing shady things.
Yeah.
So I think that is something. Okay. So let me close this thought, or at least make a point of this thought. My point of this thought is it's the same thing that happens a lot where people don't like to have hard conversations. Yeah. So it's an easy conversation when you say, those customers never know where their money goes, and it's only $12 a thing, and it's no big deal. The easiest thing for me to do is to smile and say, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
That's the easy, and that's not that big of a deal, right? It gets so much harder. The further we go down that road, it gets harder and harder and harder, because then you start saying, hey, it's only, we've been skimming like $12. Guess what? They never noticed this other charge either, and I can get them for $62. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's a harder conversation. So have the hard conversation earlier. It'll make it easier for you. So that being said, now how do we escalate above you in the chain of command. First of all, my goal is to not escalate above you in the chain of command. My goal is to actually raise the situation to you and bring it up to you and say, hey, Echo, the way we've been doing this job, I think we should do it a different way. I think there's a better way to do it. I think there's a better way to treat the customer, whatever the thing is, better way to attack this target, whatever the thing is. And I'm going to have that conversation with you like 2, 3, 4, 5 times to try and get you to listen to me. Now, if the conversation doesn't work, I'm going to escalate it even further. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually do a little write-up. I'm going to write a point paper. I'm going to say, Echo, I was listening and thinking about what we're doing, how we're hitting this target, or how we're loading out our guys, or whatever. And I'm going to write you a point paper, and I'm going to lay it out for you, to lay out what my plan is, what the cost benefits are, and make that very clear to you. So that way I'm giving you every ample opportunity to listen to what I'm saying, right? And I'm probably even going to say, hey, maybe we should run this by, the boss to see what they think. Because if you just keep disagreeing with me and I say, you mind if I bring this to the boss and see what he thinks?
Yeah.
Now, what are you going to say to that? Most immediates are not going to be happy, but I'm giving you a heads up, right? Because I'm just trying to play open.
And it kind of make them reflect too, where it's like, hey, I'm gonna, bring somebody there. What are they gonna say? No, don't bring that to the boss. It's kind of like, it makes it real overt that they're not doing correct.
Yeah. So yeah, you say, and you might get a boss that goes, yeah, bring it to him. He's gonna say the same thing I'm telling you, and then you go, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about this procedure, or maybe I'm wrong about how we're gonna attack this target. But it is. And also, this is a hard conversation to have. It's a hard conversation to say to someone, man, can we just bring this to the boss? And again, I'm not saying you say, hey, I'm going to bring this to the boss.
Right,
no, you say, hey, would you mind if I got his opinion? Yeah. Would you mind if I see what she said about this? And that way, we're not saying, I'm going to the boss. I'm going above your head. You can't stop me. No, that's not what I'm talking about. So there's that. The other thing that you can, so that's sort of a direct approach with your immediate boss, which starts, by the way, with an indirect approach of being like, hey, Echo, I was thinking about the way we're hitting these targets. Wouldn't it be smart maybe if we hit him from over here? Do you think that would work? And now we're just opening up the conversation. So we've done that. I can also go indirect with your boss, right? So your direct boss, who's now 2 up above me in the chain of command, I can go indirect with him at the water fountain, right?
Yep.
Hey, oh yeah, thanks, boss. Yeah, everything's going great. Yeah, doing a great job. Yeah, I'm on Echo's team. Yeah, no, it's really good. It's good. It's a tough mission, but we're always exploring new ways to do it. We're looking at some other options. I was thinking of another way to hit those targets too, kind of like coming in from this direction. Oh, that's all I did was just plant a little seed.
Sure.
Have that conversation come up, and that's what I'm gonna do. Plant the little seeds and try and get them to maybe say, oh, that sounds like a really good idea. What did Echo think of that? Actually, I haven't talked to Echo about it in full detail, but I will. Now I go back, hey man, the boss asked me about this, and he was mentioning, I mentioned this other way of doing it, and he thought it might be a good idea, and I just want to give you a heads up in case he says anything. I didn't really have a chance, whatever. So we're playing the game a little bit.
That's good, right? We're maneuvering. That line, I just want to give you the heads up. I feel like that's like real good when someone says that.
It is. However, it also gets, it's also a way of saying, hey, I ratted you out. I ratted you out. Depending on what it's followed with, it's like, hey, I just want to give you a heads up. The boss, asked me about this, and I didn't know how to respond, so I said this, and he might come and talk to you. So I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Right, that's good.
That's different than hey, just to give you a heads up, I talked to the boss earlier today. I told him what your deal is. Something like that. That's not going to go good for you.
I can see that.
Yeah, there's all kinds of shades of gray there as well. And I worked for a while. I was the admiral's aide, and so I worked for a really great guy, great admiral, who I had a really good relationship with. And if I needed something, he was going to give it to me. And so when I was a task unit commander, which is what job I went to immediately when I got done working for the admiral, I literally had a direct line to the admiral because I had his cell phone number. I had his office number. And if I wanted to call him, he wanted to talk to me because we were friends. But that doesn't mean that I went to him and did all kinds of, I didn't do that. No, I never took advantage of that at all, and was always professional. But there is this one little story where, as odd as this might sound, we were getting ready to go on deployment, and we needed a what's called a large format color printer.
Yeah.
And it prints out big pieces of paper, large format. And you need it because you need to make battle maps.
Yeah.
And you need a good one because when you go out on an operation, every single guy on the platoon has a map. Mm-hmm. So you might need 8, 10, 12, 15, 30. You might need 30 color laminated maps to go out on a mission. And for whatever reason, I think we had one. It was kind of crappy. And the boss, the admiral, I talked to him before I was going on deployment. I don't know if he called me or I ran into him or whatever. And he's the admiral in charge of everything. And he's just, getting a feel for what's going on. And he says, hey, do you have everything you need for deployment? Because he knew I was leaving in a couple days or a couple weeks. And I said, yeah, sir, we're good to go. Right now, believe it or not, I'm just waiting on a printer. Got to get one of those large format printers for battle maps. But other than that, we're rocking and rolling. And like that afternoon, I got back to my office and the Commodore. So now it's 2 bosses above my immediate boss at the SEAL team and 1 guy below the admiral. Had like a message for me. He was like, hey, and luckily I was friends with him too. He goes, hey, I guess you need a printer. Let me know what kind.
See what you did.
And he's like, thanks for the heads up. And I was like, hey, sorry, sir. I just saw him in the Quickie Mart or whatever. But yeah, you don't want to abuse that stuff at all. And you gotta be smart about it. And it always is. I'm telling you, it's not good to skip the chain of command. It really isn't. It generally is not going to benefit you. It's generally going to put you in a bad situation. It's going to give you less leverage with your immediate boss. Because if I went above the chain of command on you, even if you get redirected by our boss, you are pissed.
Yeah.
And you're gonna sabotage.
Yeah, it's a version of going behind someone's back.
Oh, for sure,
right?
It is.
Yeah, and it almost even feels like even if you tell them, it feels like, oh, you're going above my head.
Yeah,
you're going behind my back.
It's a tough one. Yeah. You gotta use caution with that one. And also, I'll tell you what else it is. It appears to be the easy way out. Like if you're not listening to me, I'm just going to go above the chain of command. Instead of me influencing you, explaining to you, writing point papers to you, building a relationship with you so that you trust me, instead of doing all those things that take time and effort and tact, I'm just going to skip the chain of command and tell your boss. That's another negative about it. It's a cop-out. Right. You shouldn't need to do it. I can't. Like that printer story I just told, other than that, me going above the chain of command, and that was almost a comical thing. Like I said, I was friends with the Commodore too, who always took great care of me and was laughing when he left the message. Like, oh, thanks for the heads up. He wasn't mad when he said that. He was, he was laughing because here I was getting ready to deploy to Iraq, and what I want is a printer. That's what we need, which can tell you how dialed in we were and how much great gear we had, because the only thing that was left that we needed was a printer. Yeah. That's where I was at. I got everything we needed, but I needed a printer.
So you went above his head, and I get it. For the printer.
But you got to, other than that, it's really hard for me to think of other times in my naval career where I went above someone in the chain of command. It just didn't happen. I'm going to take the time to build a relationship with my immediate boss, and they're going to do what I want them to do. Yeah. They're going to give me what I want them to give me. They're going to support me the way I need to get supported. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. That's leading up the chain of command. Skipping the chain of command isn't really leadership. Yeah. So try not to do it.
Kind of like when you're a kid and you got to deal with your older brother or something, but instead of dealing with him, you go and tattle on him or something like that. Yeah. That's how you feel.
Yeah, no, it's the same similar thing.
Not that my little brother tattled on me ever in his life.
Yeah.
Interesting how and it seems like this is a common theme too, how you're you want to try the most and the best you can to deal with it yourself, like the most.
For sure.
From the beginning.
Own it.
I mean, just like how you were saying how, if you got to fire someone, where you want to get to the point where...
deal with it in the beginning, yes.
Yeah, you can't, just let them do the wrong thing and be like, yeah, that's cool. Let them do it for years and then be like, you know what, you're fired because of all these wrong things and you didn't even bring it up.
And think about this, too. Like, on the unethical things, you might be... Again, I'm gonna walk a fine line here, but you might not recognize you might not recognize that what you're doing is unethical. You might be like, hey, Jocko, you know what I do is I always hit everyone with this little extra $12 charge, no big deal. No one ever notices it. And, we're working hard. And you might just, hey, man, it gives you food for your kids and you're working on a bunch of rich people's houses so they can afford $12. And it's not that big of a deal to you. And maybe somebody that you started working for did the same thing, and that's kind of just the standard operating procedure.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was like, man, you know what? That's not good. That's actually, it might not seem like a big deal, but you're taking money. That puts money on your table, feeds your kids. It's taking money off their table.
Yeah.
And whether they're rich or not, money's money. Yeah. And I don't feel like we should be doing it. You know what I mean? I might awaken you and get your ethics back on track, and you might be a good dude. Because just because someone was skimming some money doesn't mean they're a horrible person, right? It means that they went down the wrong path. Yeah. And just because someone goes down the wrong path doesn't mean they can come back. Doesn't mean they cannot come back to the right path. Man, if I was executed every time I did something that was stupid or bad or I shouldn't have done, I would have died 1,000 deaths by now, right? Yep. We grow up and we learn these things. We become better people, but we only become better people and we only learn these things if somebody teaches them to us.
Yeah.
Now we can learn the hard way, which is, all of a sudden someone looks at you and goes, wait, what's this charge for? $12. And then they pull up all your receipts for the last 5 years you've been working here. And then they realize you've stolen money from the company and stolen money from these customers, and they're going to prosecute you.
Yeah.
Because stealing over X amount of dollars is a felony. You know what I mean? So then you learn your lesson. But that's not the lesson we want to learn. So having those tough conversations like you're talking about, having them up front, and whether it's, you're right, whether it's counseling somebody, whether it's dealing with, my boss who I want to tell, like, hey, I think there's a better way to do this. Any of those, the earlier you do them, the easier they are to have. And the longer you wait to do them, the harder they get.
Yeah.
So.
Also, too, it's just an overall help. Like, I don't know. It's hard to not draw the the comparison between like your boss and subordinates type situation and parenting kids. Like, for sure. Just like how you're saying, sometimes people don't know necessarily that it's unethical, or they don't know it's that unethical or something like that. That's it. I mean, in my situation with kids, like, they don't know. Essentially, they don't know better, Like, I don't know. You take a permanent pen and you draw all over the walls. You're 4 or 5 years old, and you're like, yeah, sure, I've been drawing on paper this whole time, so there's no reason for me to think, sure, I should draw on the walls, but there's really nothing to tell me not to. So they do it, and then they go get, like, beat or something like that, or just yelled at or something, some punishment, straight up punishment, instead of, okay, you didn't know that, you have to know this. It's like that kind of stuff.
I gotta tell a story. I was going through officer candidate school, and there's a manual when you're going through officer candidate school. I can't remember what it is, but it's all the rules of officer candidate school. Everything this is how your uniform's supposed to be, this is the way your locker's supposed to be, these are the way you stand in line at the chow hall. Every single rule is in this book, and I forget what it's called. So you live by the code of this book, and it's very specific rules. Yeah. And there was a kid who was going through officer candidate school with us, and he was from another country. He'd been raised in another country and became an American citizen. Yeah. But he was from another country and grew up in a really poor kid. So good for him. I mean, he had achieved an incredible amount. Finishing college, going to officer candidate school was awesome. Yeah. But he had some habits from growing up in the third world that were a little bit different for Americans. Sure. And one of the things that he would do is he would urinate in the shower. And not just while he was taking a shower, but when you come back from a class or something, everyone have to go to the bathroom at the same time. And so, guys would go in and they'd fill up the urinals, and then there's nowhere to piss. Right. So what are you going to do? Oh, well, he would just go in the shower, and it's a big open shower. You just go in there and piss right in the drain like it was nothing.
Toilet, shower.
Yeah, toilet, shower, whatever.
Dang.
And one of the American kids, and I'm calling them kids, these guys were all, actually, we had some of them were new kids, fresh out of college. The kid that was urinating in the shower was fresh out of college, and one of the older guys who was like me, was a prior enlisted guy. He came to me and he said, "Hey, man, this kid's urinating in the shower, like all the time." And I said, okay, well, run the water. And he's like, "Brand, I gotta get this." He's like, my squad's in charge of cleaning the showers, and so these are my guys on the ground cleaning up his piss. It ain't cool. And I was like, all right, cool, I'll talk to him. So I went and I said, hey, man, officer candidate, whatever, can I talk with you for a second? He goes, yeah. And he comes in my room, and I said, hey man, you're pissing in the shower. Just wait for a toilet. And he looked at me like I was telling him that he shouldn't breathe air. Right? He was like, well, why? And I said, well, no, because you're pissing where everyone walks around, and he goes, yeah, but the water to drain.
It's just all going pipes.
And he goes, and I said, no, it's not. Just don't do it. And he goes, it's not in the rule book. Is what he said to me. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, and he named the manual. And he goes, it doesn't say in there that you can't piss in the showers. I was like, well, it doesn't say you can't piss on my floor either, or in my bed, but I don't want you doing that. Right. But it was interesting. My point is that his viewpoint was like, this was totally normal. Yeah. And he was a great kid and a hard worker. But for him, he was just like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Why wouldn't I piss in the shower? All the pissers are taken. Right. I'm going to go piss in the shower. Well, next question. Let's move on. I got work to do. And so I had to explain to him, hey, man, listen, it's a little different. And people that are cleaning the showers don't want to be down on their hands and knees in your piss. Yeah. So, and he said, okay. And he listened to me. But I could see that he listened to me, but he didn't 100% agree with me. Right, right. He was like, okay, like, that's fine. So, yeah, he kind of did that, Yeah. And it was one of those where I'm trying to explain to him the why, but it's like you're saying, like he literally didn't understand that was not acceptable from a hygienic point. Hygienic, is that right?
Sure,
hygienic from a hygienic point, from a moral or a morale point of the team morale, that's in there cleaning up. So that was good times.
You never seen that Seinfeld? You watch Seinfeld ever? You know what that is, right?
I know it's a TV show, but negative.
That's what they talk about. Yeah. He gets caught. One of the guys gets caught taking a leak in the shower at the gym. You go to the gym, you take a shower, and then it's like, they catch you and you're ostracized, basically. I think they even took his I don't know. But he's like, yeah, you believe this? They're whatever. They're mad at me for, pissing in the shower at the gym. And he's like, why are you confused that they're mad at you, kind of thing? And he's like, it's all pipes. It all goes. He's trying to defend it. And you can kind of see where in a small, teeny tiny way, if you don't think about it, why not? It's going down the drain. You're not pissing on the people.
Hey, I was deployed on a ship, and I was an officer. I was an ensign, so I just moved up from the troop berthing where I used to be with the enlisted swine. That's what we used to proudly call ourselves. Sure. And all of a sudden, I was up in the officer area, in the what do they call those areas? The officer country. Sure. So they have little signs, officer country. No enlisted allowed.
Elitist.
Yeah, totally elitist. Stop. So I'm in there and I'm living with. We actually had 4 other SEAL officers in this room. And one of the SEAL officers, there was a sink in the room, but no bathroom. So you just had a sink. You could brush your teeth, shave, whatever. But if you wanted to go to the bathroom, you had to go down the hallway where the showers and the pissers were. And so one night, I'm like get stirred awake by some noise, and I see one of my fellow officers is pissing in the sink, right? In the sink. And, I was like, hey man, what are you doing? He's like, I'm not walking all the way down to the bathroom. And I was like, yeah, actually, yes, you are. That's where I brush my teeth, Holmes. I know. And he was the same way. He was kind of surprised, like, what's wrong with you? It's just piss and it's the same pipes. But I was like, no, do me a favor. Just walk on down there.
What if he urinated in the sink regularly, but every single time when he was done, he scrubbed the sink with like Lysol and stuff?
Bro.
It's all psychological at that point.
Well, it's not just psychological, but that doesn't even make it worth it. Now you might as well walk down there.
Right, I dig it, but like, what if that was just his thing? I mean, well, how would you feel about it?
Don't piss in my sink.
Yeah, right. It's like a what do you call it? Like a customary, almost, for reasons, of course.
Yeah, the reason is don't piss in my sink.
No, you gotta think about. Actually, in college, we played football, and we had like a nice facility too, at UH. But the showers were like, guys would do it all the time. But the showers were shaped different, where, like, let's say you're facing the shower, right? Or you're facing the wall. At the bottom of the wall was like a gutter,
trench,
a trench, Mm-hmm. So it went down. So if you did, and one guy's would, it would go down. You weren't ever standing in it, Mm-hmm. So if you're standing in it, that's like obvious, But guys would do it. And when I first saw it, I was like, dang, you're just openly doing it. Like one of this guys, I actually mentioned his name before. I'm not gonna mention because it's pissing in the shower, but. He's like talking to me while he's pissing in the shower, almost like it was a straight up toilet. It was understood. And he's like, yeah, I'll talk to me. And I'm like, all right, that's how. So again, it's more like the ethics of the culture almost. It's what it seemed like.
Yeah, what it seems like to me is don't piss in my sink.
I agree.
That's what it seems like
the
to me.
sink is different.
Sink is a totally different ball game.
Yeah.
Shower, okay, understood, right? Like you said, it goes down the drain.
Yeah.
There's water flowing all over it.
Yeah, you're washing off anyway.
You're washing off. There's soap coming over it. But you know what? I got a good idea. Just as a general overall rule, piss in the toilet.
Yeah, try the toilet. Yeah, it's way better.
Do that one.
Yeah, the same way you're probably not going to brush your teeth in the toilet.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that.
That's what the sink is for.
Now, if you want to brush your teeth in the toilet, have at it. I won't be mad at you.
I'll be mad at you, bro. I don't know if I can hang out with you as much or whatever, but yeah, I understand. It makes sense.
And we're talking about pissing in toilets from talking about skipping the chain of command. Oh yeah, that's right, because the guy at OCS, Officer Candidate School.
Yeah, you got to
pissing in the shower.
You got to let him know. Yeah. You got to have the hard conversations.
I wonder whatever happened to him. He was a hard worker.
Where was he from?
Somewhere like Vietnam or Laos or something. Maybe Thailand.
Yeah.
Some Asian country, Southeast Asian country.
Yeah.
Hard worker and smart.
Yeah, I would say
yeah.
My opinion about taking a leak in the shower is you shouldn't do it. But if like this guy who's like, oh, that's normal, that doesn't like totally surprise me though.
Yeah, no, it doesn't totally surprise me.
But makes sense that guys didn't like it though, for sure. Next question.
And don't skip the chain of command if you can avoid it.
Yeah, by the way, yeah, don't do that either. Yeah, anything going behind someone's back, it just like how you said, it's like sometimes you can't repair that.
Yeah,
you know?
It's hard to repair.
Oh man, yeah.
Hard to repair.